channel. If you're new here, my name's Joni Young and I'm going to be showing you step by step exactly how to paint this daisy sunset landscape today. I hope you guys want to paint along. I'm so excited to show you how to do this, so let's begin. Don't forget to subscribe now, tap that bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. Okay guys, let's get started with this painting. I've got neon orange, neon pink, cobalt blue, cadmium yellow light cool, and titanium white. And I've got it in two spots, the yellow. I want to use the yellow for part of the sky with these colors, and I want to use the yellow with the blue for the foliage that is going to be around the frame of the canvas. So I don't want to mix my yellows up. I want to keep this one clean with these colors. I'm working on an 11 by 14 canvas. I just painted over another older painting with a little bit of white and black to make a soft gray color. Keep in mind you can paint this landscape today on any canvas that you want, any size that you want, and any color canvas. So white will be just fine. I'm going to begin this painting with one of my larger blending brushes. It's a filbert. You guys have been seeing me use this one quite often in my videos. I like it because I can do a lot with this brush as well as cover large areas. So let's begin with some white, a little bit of yellow, and I just want to create some light in the sky. So I'm going to do soft streaks, brush strokes, maybe little scoops. You can kind of just do whatever you want at this stage. Try not to cover the entire sky with one color. I have the light gray as an underpainting for a reason. It takes on, not only for a little bit of shadow and contrast, but the gray takes on a bit of a violet pastel shade when I'm using this color next, which is my neon orange, because gray can be cool or warm, and if you're using a complementary color to purple, for some reason, I don't really know why, but it seems to play off of one another, the peach and this gray. And I don't know if you can see this through what you're watching it on, but here in real life, it's got a very smoky violet color. So I'm overlapping. I didn't wash my brush off. And I tend to do this with my skies, make them a little bit more dramatic by kind of going up on an angle like this. I'm going to take a little bit more this time, bit of the white, yellow, and the orange. And I'll do a few softer streaks in here. Now down here in the distance and the horizon, I'm imagining we've got a beautiful sea, ocean, some kind of body of water. Helps to make this look really dramatic and pretty and relaxing to look at. Without washing my brush off, I'm going to go right into this neon pink, and I'm going to start coming off the edge like this and pulling it down into that orange. I'm going to take just a little bit of water on my brush now, loosen some of that paint up in there. And again, add a little bit down here in the water. Okay, now without washing my brush off, I'm going to go right into that cobalt with a little bit of white. I'm going to use the rest of this pink that I've got, and right off the edge, I'm going to softly bring this color down, and then just feathering side to side, back and forth to work some of that paint out. We're going to pull it into these other colors and make everything look like it's flowing into one another. I'm going to take a little bit more of my blue now and start coming in on the right side. I'm going to pull and bring it right underneath this bar so it's on the top of the canvas. And I know that if I add a bit of this blue over top of the orange, I'm gonna get sort of a smoky tan color, but that's nice. It's nice to have some earth tones in a painting like this that has a lot of color. Take a little bit more. Just want to start adding a little bit more depth now. Grab all of this blue. And this is just going to be our underpainting for our daisies. Take a little bit of that yellow now and make green. I think we've got little stems here. Wiggle, pull, and slide. So I've got that paint right on the tip of my brush. And see how I'm just doing this random. So I'm turning my brush different ways. I'm gonna just get a little bit more water on my brush now. I haven't been using a lot of water, and I tell you guys when I am. So if you're not sure, just pay close attention because I'll mention when I'm grabbing some water. I'm going to get the edges of the canvas here because I want to be able to see this from all sides, and I will paint underneath and around the side here too. I just want to have this kind of coming in, drawing our eyes in, and then leaving this area in the distance of our, just a little hint there, a little suggestion of the sea. I'm going to completely, I was going to wash my brush up, but I'm going to take just a little bit more of this yellow first. These are going to dry darker. I probably mentioned that. Sorry if I'm repetitive, but depending on when you're watching this, I don't know if you guys are watching the entire video, but acrylic paint dries darker. So don't get frustrated if you're noticing that your highlights and your bright colors are fading and dulling as they dry. So it's just a way to counteract that is by adding a little bit more white to whatever color you're using for your highlights. I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush now, this number 16 filbert. I'm going to get it a little bit wet, and I'm going to take a bit of white with my pink blue mixture right here, and I'm going to start creating little scoops. Got a little bit more water on my brush, more blue, a little bit more blue, white, pink, or just blue and white, or both, alternating, can give you some really pretty effects in your sky, those pretty pastel colors. And I want to add a little bit here in the distance, and just go right back. I might have to add a little bit more paint to my palette here in case I run out. So little scoops for those pretty soft cloud effects. I like how the filbert brush helps me along with these scoops. Kind of does the work for me. So if you don't have a filbert brush, you should really invest in one. And you don't have to spend a lot on brushes for good ones. I got this set on Amazon a few years ago. There was quite a few in this set. It came with a carrying case. And to be honest, I haven't been able to find it again, but I know there's lots of brushes on Amazon that are good quality, that won't break the bank. I'll take a little bit more of my blue and pink. I like to overlap to get a real layered effect. And I do want some parts of this to be darker, right? In order for our, just going to lift this up a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing on the top of the canvas. Yeah, so I really want to have my contrast a bit stronger in this painting in order for my sun rays to look nice and bright. And I have a lot more control with how much I'm adding here. Switching over to this smaller brush. Without washing my brush off, I can just do this carefully. A little bit of those warm colors. I'm just going to go along the horizon here and just add a few soft streaks, just back, pull back. You can go back and forth if you want, but you don't really need to. So you can soften your sky up as much as you want. It's so nice working with acrylics because they do dry quickly. Some people hate that. I really like that aspect of them. You can come over and layer over, achieving a really soft, pretty look. Come in with a little bit more of my warm colors down here. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty. Now when I get something streaky and bright like that I love, I don't want to overblend. Kind of just leave it when that happens and it looks really pretty. I'm just going around it now and trying to get a little bit more of that, maybe a little bit of yellow. Looks a little bit like fire in the sky. Okay, so because these are going to be mostly in shadow here, we're going to have not silhouette, but a nice cool shadow, and I'm going to keep in theme with the cool colors that we've got here. So our cobalt blue and white, and I've got another filbert brush here. This one's a number 8. You can use a round brush or a small filbert brush like this to create your daisies, and I'll hop over and switch from this to a round brush just so that I can show those of you that may not have a filbert brush like this and all you have is a round brush. So I'll show you both ways, both techniques of using each brush to create these flowers. So I'm going to take a little bit of that blue and white, and I'm going to just go from the bottom up and pull. We really want the paint to be on the tip of our brush. by going out towards inside the flower. That gives us the proper flower shape. Whereas if you went like this, you get sort of you don't get a nice clean end to your flower petals. So it works better. You can even push if you want to make them a little bit thicker. And these are going to be kind of on the big side, so that will set everything else back in the distance. And don't be afraid to overlap and use a little bit more white at times, and then sometimes use a little bit more of your blue. I'm going to start adding one here. Make some of these a little bit longer because daisies have a little bit longer petals, don't they? So if you gently push and then pull and then let off, push, pull, let off, and then each time you do this, line your brush up and turn it. And once you get the hang of it, they're really quite fun to paint, and you can paint a lot of other flowers like this too with a simple technique, just using a wider filbert brush, pushing a little bit harder, and shorter pulls will get you different shapes of petals for different flowers. And then maybe we've got some smaller ones going down the bank. Those will stand out a little bit more if I add just a little hint of white. Remember that, you know, they're going to dry darker. They're going to be this really cool smoky blue color. I'm going to use this green right here to be the inside of my flower. And like I said, you're going to have to get over the fear of overlapping. So you'll have a flower that you've just painted, and then you're going to have to get comfortable with going over part of it in order for you to achieve that look that's more natural in a field or an area where there's lots of flowers. I think I just want to come up a little bit higher here. I think I'm going to add another flower or two down here. Try to get your flowers on different angles too, just so that they look a little bit more natural. So I've got a few pointing up here, so I'm going to come in here and add that one sort of facing us. And these are going to change slightly once I add the centers to them too. I think I'll have one coming from this side with a center facing the sky and the sun. And then this one is going to be a little bit darker. I'm going to pick up a little bit of green, slide into my yellow and my blue to make green. And then I'm just going to start tapping in for the center. Add a little bit more blue. A little bit of yellow. Do these little taps so we get that texture. And as this dries, I'll know what I need to add or what else I need to add to make them show up a bit better. A little bit of that yellow. And again, it's going to dry darker unless I add a bunch of white. And I might do that for some of these. Don't want to forget about these little ones down here. And then we're going to need a stem. Like I said earlier, I was going to demonstrate with a round brush as well for those of you that may not have a filbert brush and still want to learn how to paint daisies. So here I've got a number 2 round brush. I'm going to get it a little bit wet and I'm going to go into the same blue and white. Get it nice and loaded up, and same technique. Push, let off, and pull. Make sure you load your brush up as often as you need to. As soon as you start running out of paint and you're trying to push to get that paint out, you know, a lot of people when starting out to paint don't often know. It seems like such a obvious thing when you have to reload your brush, but a lot of people don't know. And I'm going to add a little bit more white, some of these areas. And I'm purposely going off the canvas here so that we get that feeling like this continues and they're coming out from this side, but we just can't see the whole flower. And just by adding a little bit of white here, we can create a little bit more dimension and some softer midtones as the blues start to dry. So the second layer is nice. You don't have to do it. You can skip it if you want. It's also a good way to get some practice in as well. I find painting these flowers to be relaxing and therapeutic. Get a little bit of water on my brush. Mix up a bit more color here. See how I twist and roll my brush? You gotta pull and work that paint out that's getting towards the handle, too far down your brush. You want the paint to be on the tip of your brush. I've got quite a few daisies out in my garden right now. I like daisies. They're simple flowers, not everybody's favorite flower. I wouldn't say they're one of my favorites, but there's just so many beautiful flowers out there. Of course, I love color, but I think my garden wouldn't be complete without a few daisies. They're cheerful. So you can see both a filbert and a round brush work really well for creating these flower petals. I really want to get the feeling that there's a lot of flowers in here, so I'm going to sneak a few more in different tones of this blue with the white. So like here, we're not seeing a whole flower, right? We're just seeing little bits, a few petals here and there. Now the brush that I want to take to show you guys how to do a little bit more texture on, there's a couple brushes that you could use. Oh, there it is. They were right next to each other. So this one is a really neat one. It is even tail or rake filbert. Then I've also got a mini mop brush. So with this mini mop brush, I can stipple very lightly and delicately to get a little bit of the seeds or the pattern on the daisies. And then sometimes when you look really closely, it can look like there's almost like a grid. So that's what this will do, is help to create that. So I'll demonstrate both. I'm gonna get my brush a little bit wet. This is it's called, let's see what it's called. Zen 6mm 1/4 inch Royal and Langnickel. Royal and Langnickel is the brand, the company. And I got a few of these at Michael's in Canada. You can find them online as well on Amazon and wherever else they sell brushes fine art stores or arts and crafts stores. So I'm going to take a little bit of this yellowy green with a little bit of white and some water. Oops, too much water. So you just want like a little light springy green color with the odd little pet hair in my brushes, and I don't want that to end up interfering with my brush strokes. It's hard to not have pet hair on things when you own 3 ragdoll cats and a dog that shed like crazy, and I'm sure you guys can relate to me. So I've got this light green color, and I'm just gonna pull and turn a little bit, and then I'm gonna go the other way. You can go in all directions. Take a little bit more yellow this time. And that'll give you a little bit more of a pattern to the centers of your flowers. This would be a really great brush to use if you're doing a close-up of a sunflower, because they have that all those patterns and grids and lines. So that's an easy way of doing that without having to do every single line one at a time with a liner brush. Now this would be my brush of choice just because I really love, I think my favorite brush is a mop brush or a stipple brush. Stipple is just really like the brush stroke, the brush technique. But these are really nice brushes. It's actually a makeup brush. I have a whole set of these. I talk about it all the time. You guys ask all the time what brushes I'm using, and I got them from Amazon. They're iridescent crystal handled makeup brushes. And I've got a link, quite a few links under my videos for these. And it's dry. I don't want to ruin that shape. I'm gonna tap into those same colors, light greeny yellow, by taking a little bit of my cobalt blue. And I'll show you on this one, it's a little bit darker. So I'm just gonna push and tap. I'll add a little bit more white to this one. It'll show up a little bit more. And then if we want to go back to that green color, just take a little bit more of the blue. So you don't have to add this much. You don't have to have every center of your flower the same color either. I'm just demonstrating here, but the lighting's different everywhere on each flower because they're all pointing in different directions. So the light and shadow will fall differently on each of them. So make sure you change it up and have some that are brighter than the others. So I'm just gonna go back in right now with where did my round brush go? I'm just going to use a different round brush right now. I can't seem to find my round brush that I just had a few seconds ago. And I'm going to come back in and just add a few more dots and dabs around here for some shadows, darker spots where it's going to be a little bit darker. Like I said, due to like this one is kind of tucked down here, so it won't be as bright. I want to have a few more stems, so I'm just going to line my brush up. I'll have a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, push and then let off. Put a bit of yellow on some of these. I'm going to dry this off and then we're going to come in with our sun. Okay, so it's time to paint our sun, and I'm going to put my sun, I think I'm going to place my sun right about in here. I've just got a small filbert brush, and I'm going to take some white and just add a little circle right here. Now keep in mind this shape might get a little bit messed up as we pull off for our sun streaks and rays. And for those sun rays, I'm going to switch from the round brush to a flat brush, something more square, flat, that I can make the sun rays more angular with. I don't want them to end up having a curve to them, and that'll happen naturally if you use something with a round head on it, such as a filbert brush or a round brush. And I got my brush wet. To create sun streaks and rays, you need to have a wetter brush to work with. I'm going to use a combination of these warm colors that we've got going on here in the sky. So this is dry. I am going to be layering over and pulling down. I'm going to line my brush up here, pull and flick. Load my brush up again, a little bit more white and those colors and some water. Keep in mind it doesn't have to be the same, exact same color every time. It's quite nice to add a little bit more pink sometimes to some of them. Or yellow or orange. And go into my orange, yellow. And add a little bit more color to some of these. And I'm going to get a bit of water. And see, like I said, that would probably happen. The shape, the inside, but that will be what we do at the end, is finish that off. This is just our guide, our base to go off of. I'm using a little bit more white this time. Where we pull from is going to be the brightest, and then they start to fade out. So now we can turn our brush to make it wider. So when I start these skinny ones, you hold your brush straight like this, using just the end of it. And then for the wider ones, we turn our brush. I just like to soften and have everything kind of gradually go out and look a little bit more graceful and delicate. Take more white and make these ones shorter now. Brighter and shorter. Back to that warm color. I think I'll come out a little bit wider here. We're going to need to take a little bit more paint to make that show up. So it can take a little bit of going back and forth till you get it right. Sometimes if you have too much water, it won't show up. There we go. So I'll go back in the center now. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow this time. And in between here, I'm just going to pull out a little bit of color. And then into my white. And I'm going to take this peachy, yellowy, warm, sunny color and add a few bits of highlights to a few areas of the flowers. So we can feel that sunlight hitting on some of them. And I'll just add a little bit more white right in here. think I'm gonna add a few birds kind of in the distance. I could take a little bit of blue and a little bit of that peach, a little bit of pink, water, and just kind of dip down. Nothing too detailed. Just that indication that there's a few birds in the distance flying. Before I call this one done, I'm going to just take a little bit of blue here and just come in between some of these areas to add a little bit more contrast. I'm not necessarily outlining anything. I'm just dabbing and dotting. Can't really see the center of that flower, so I'm going to add a little bit more there. Okay, so this painting is all done. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this one today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and join Patreon to receive early access and much, much more. I'll see you guys all soon in my next video. Bye!